All right, we're excited to be joined now with Coach Mike Vrabel here. And, Coach, I got to start with one. Take us back. What was it like when you were a player here at the Combine?
Well, Orlando Pace was my roommate. And I tell this story every year I come to the Combine when they say, players are at the MRI, or they have to go to the hospital for some more tests or be tugged on. And Orlando Pace, they must have said that he had to go get an MRI. And he was like, no, I'm going back to Columbus. And he just either he flew back or he drove back or whatever. And so teams would be calling, or people would be calling like, hey, is Orlando there? I said, no, I don't think he's here, and I don't know when he's going to be back. And they said, well, he needs to come get an MRI. And I said, I don't think he's headed for that MRI. And he still got picked with the number 1 overall draft pick. So that was a funny story that he just said, I'm out of here. I'm not getting an MRI. But no, it was good. I mean, I remember meeting with teams. I remember meeting with Belichick when I was here, and he was still coaching, and whoever he was with at the time in '97. So, it was good. I mean, Jason Taylor was near me in a group, you know what I'm saying, like T and V. And he obviously had an amazing career, and we kind of went in the same part of the end of the third round, and we'll always remember that. And but, it's just one step of a process.
Yeah, so you're back now. Back up there at the podium a minute ago. How does it feel just to be representing the Patriots here and back as a head coach?
I think that's a great way to look at it. It's a great honor. It's something that I'm very grateful to be able to do, and it's a privilege, I believe, to be a part of this league and trying to build something and bring together a group of people and have some energy with it, and just provide a great vision and help people wherever I can.
You mentioned the Super Bowl when you were talking up there and building through the trenches, and just for the Orlando Pace coming up too. Just how important is it for you guys this offseason to build up the offensive and defensive lines?
Well, it is. I mean, I think that it is something that we need to be able to do. We need to identify the men that we feel like exhibit those qualities and characteristics up front, and then the ones that we feel like we need to add and to bring on that will help us continue to do that. So that's where this game is won, consistently. I mean, there's times where the skill can win, but I think down in and down out and week in and week out through the rigors of a season, you certainly want to have a great lines of scrimmage.
You mentioned you talked with some of the defensive linemen, the edges, the linebackers, the first position group we'll hear from tomorrow. You had a chance to meet with some of those guys this year. Seems like a really deep class, a lot of different types.
Yeah.
Do you still gravitate towards those positions where you played?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I do, but I also have to be careful. Early on, I think just making sure that when I was, being a head coach for the first time, that you didn't spend all your time with the outside linebackers, or you just didn't spend all your time with the defensive ends or whatever it may be, but that you're where you are, where the head coach is what's important. And so I need to be in special teams. I need to be, and I do think that that's a strength of mine. I think that I can provide some sort of coaching point, tip, fundamental to every position on our team. And I don't think that that's some positions there may be greater detail than others, but I do think that is a connection that I have and the ability to do that.
You mentioned aggressiveness with Coach Williams on the defensive side of the ball, and one of the things we've been kicking around is in Tennessee, it seemed like you guys maybe played a little bit more four-man front than what we've seen around here with Coach Belichick in the past. Just what do you look at with that defensive scheme, and could you see you guys being a little bit more four down?
Well, I mean, I think that we probably have that ability. I'm not going to commit to anything right now. We want to play on their side of the line of scrimmage. We don't want to sit and, there's different techniques. There's different things that we'll be able to do, whether we play a 3 down front, 5 down front, 4 down front, pressure. We want to be able to, have a lot of different things at our disposal to teach the players. And it may be some new teaching, and that's okay. But I think that the fundamentals that they've played with here in the past is something that we'll want to continue. Style may be a little different, or the call or the front. But I'm confident that those techniques will get taught and be able to come out.
Term we hear a lot, just to piggyback on that, is game plan defense. Heard that a lot over the years here. Would you consider yourself a game plan defense kind of coach?
Well, I mean, I think that there's certain elements that you always want to be able to take away what they do best, but at what cost to your football team. And we've done it different ways over the course of 6 years. Sometimes it's, hey, we're just going to do what we do, and we're going to stay somewhat basic, but we're going to play hard. We know what the issues are because that's what was best for our players. We're always going to do what we think is best for our players, and their performance, their understanding will help us get to that point. And if there's confusion, if indecisive, we don't want to do any of those types of things that cause somewhat of the players to be unsure about anything that we're asking them to do.
When you look at Drake and the offense with Josh and everything, you talk a lot about those like innovations and things that Josh has done over the last year or so. Can you shed any light on what some of those things might be?
No, I think you'll see a lot of that come out, but I think that there's certain things that we'll keep. There'll be some things that we add that I like or other coaches have had some experience with, and we're going to do what we think is best for our players, and we're going to make sure that they understand it. There's a lot of different scheme. There's things that we think are great, but in the end, it's what our players can believe and what we can get taught.
One of the talking points last year with Drake was, his mobility and his athleticism, but also keeping him healthy. Like, where do you kind of stand on running quarterbacks and him using his legs at a high volume?
Well, I think his ability to extend plays that begin in the pocket is the first place that you look, and looking for ways to exit the pocket, not going out the back of the pocket. I don't think anything good comes of that. Being able to step up and slide and protect the football, be strong with the football, to extend plays, to remain a passer throughout the down or till he crosses the line of scrimmage is something that we're going to talk a lot about because I know how much stress that puts on the defense. There'll be designed runs. There'll be designed move the pocket passes. But I think we want to be careful on how many times that we're asking him to potentially be the prime ball carrier or the main ball carrier. But we have to be able to do those things because of what he does and what he can do. But being smart where he's at on the football field and being able to protect himself is something that he's going to have to prove to us that he can do too.
Yeah. Just as a head coach, what do you want to accomplish this week at the Combine? What's of most value to you here in Indy?
Well, the meetings. The meetings that we have, the interactions that we have with the players and getting to know them. Being intentional with what we're asking them and how we're trying to, this is just one small part of the process, and then we'll go from this to see who the other players that we need to bring in and who do we need to have on campus at a greater length, or where we may want to send coaches and what exposure that we want to have at pro days and interviews and Zoom schedules. So this is just the first process to set up a plan for the rest of the spring until we get to end of April.
I was going to ask you about the pro days. We're going to see you with the pad on, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
No guarantees, but that may happen. I don't know. We'll see.
What do you get out of that?
We ordered a bunch of those, so those are in stock.
What do you get out of that? Like, let's just say hypothetically there's a pass rusher. You go and scout.
I think you can always just feel like the play strength of the player and, what his hands feel like and his shock and just the power that they play with and the size. And, I think having been around a lot of players over my career, I can kind of, feel and see what one looks like and just by shaking their hands or grabbing them or whatever that may be. Like some of these guys have a certain feel to them that you just know that they're going to find a way to make it.
Do you think that
they're not going to be moved around easily, or they could probably move people easily?
I mean, is that with the offensive line where you're used to taking those guys on, you get a feel for them instantly going up against them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's just a strength, a body, a core strength that you can feel in some of these guys. And, if they can, again, the tape ultimately means a lot in our ability to evaluate the tape. But I certainly like to get involved. Like, you go a long way. Why would you just stand there and watch? You might as well get involved in drills or something.
Yeah, there's a couple small moves you guys have made here. Jeremiah Farms contract extension, things like that. Just how has that process been evaluating the roster that was left over from last season with Elliott and
good.
Personal
it's
stuff?
Been very good. It's been great for us to be able to sit there and look at some of these players that we feel like if we know what they may provide for us going into next year, then let's take care of some of the bookkeeping and some of these, whether they're restricted free agent. Having conversations with some of our unrestricted free agents that could potentially be back, and then deciding if we should give a player another opportunity to pursue another team.
do you watch the film back, and like because obviously you weren't in the building last year, so how do you sort of go about evaluating those players for yourself?
Well, I watch. I talk to Elliot. I talk to Matt. Talk to Alonzo. These are conversations that we have daily on what we feel like each position wants to look like, and who we feel like is going to be one of those 90 that go into camp and try to create competition at each position.
Great. Coach, thanks so much
for
the
thank
time.
You guys.
We'll get on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.